there is a Facebook page where this man has created this regalia. I believe he bought this headdress online, but he is boasting about making an all leather painted regalia with a buffalo, but claims he is Native American of the Israelites.
Soraya. Wanna go to war, I'm with it. Got my garment fitted. I'm on the floor, I hit it. I'm an Israelite, they get it. Wanna go to war, I'm with it. Got my garment fitted. I'm on the floor, I hit it. I'm an Israelite, they get it. Ain't got time for no ifs. I'm waiting on Christ's return. God gon' stretch his big hand. On scriptures, place gon' burn. Y'all say bye to missing. Israel, yeah, it's our turn. Watch your hand, don't reach it. Dash hands with no concern. Y'all hit y'all goal, well I hit mine too. I hit mine a little bit different. Destruction on these nations, and I guarantee all these heathens gon' get it. Take a run, are you going to the track out? Don't tell the boss so you know we getting blacked out. Getting saved ain't something you should ask about. Now watch the chariot back out. When you wanna go to war, I'm with it. Got my garment fitted. I'm on the floor, I hit it. I'm an Israelite, they get it. Wanna go to war, with it. Got my garment fitted. I'm on the floor, I hit it. I'm an Israelite, they get it. Whoa. Got my garment fitted. Whoa. I'm on the floor, I hit it. Whoa. I'm an Israelite, they get it. If it's too much for you, I advise you to stay home, man. Go and grab you a hobby. Go, chemo, sabi, friends, check copies, spirit up. Golly, even chosen the folly. Wait. Why am I even running back? I don't know. Man, it's a million ways I can flip that. Shouldn't be acting like that. I need that. Temptation, I don't need that. What you throwing up really mean feedback. Time to get the kingdom, man. Tell me where the keys at. Cut at him, Joseph. Spit him like Moses. Oh, Pharaoh, leave. Look at his poses. Give him no roses. Osmosis, let me free. Penny on the dollar. Heathen with a collar. I went out, father. You an imposter. Burn your cover. Sending your father. Praise to the Abba. Running back lava. You can rhyme or you going to the track out. They televised so you know we getting backed out. Getting saved ain't something you should ask now. And watch the chariot back out. If I'm trying to go to war, I'm with it. Got my garment fitted. I'm on the floor, I hit it. I'm an Israelite, they get it. Wanna go to war, with it. Got my garment fitted. I'm on the floor, I hit it. I'm an Israelite, they get it. Whoa. Wanna go to war, with it. Whoa. Got my garment fitted. Whoa.
Shabbat Shalom. This is the Hebrew Chosen Elect, Wilmington, Delaware Sabbath service. We hold every Shabbat from about 2 to 4 p.m. This week we're going to be picking right back up to proving the so-called African Americans are the true Jews / Israelites of the Bible according to antiquity, written history, and the Bible, the scriptures themselves. It all goes back to proof that you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians are the true Israelites written about in the Bible, God's chosen people. Before we get started for the class, and this is part 4, by the way. We've already did 3 in-depth classes breaking this fact down. So this is part 4. Before we get started, I will go through some announcements. So let me pull that up. Bear with me. Second, first announcement we're going to go deal with, as usual, upcoming feast days. We just had a new moon, March the 1st. So if you celebrate the new moon on March 1st. I hope it was a good celebration, good feast day for you. I know we had a good time. A little bit of drinking, eating, watched a great fight. A lot of people are divided on the outcome of that one, but it is what it is. So the upcoming feast day, if you look on the screen, upcoming feast day is Feast of Purim. Feast of Purim will be keeping March the 14th at sundown. March the 14th is sundown, and then I forget when the next new moon is, but I think it's March 30th. And then Passover, we'll be celebrating April 13th. We'll get the flyer out there. It'll be April 13th sundown. We'll be hosting a feast for Passover in Dover, Delaware. But we'll get the location, times, and all that out to you. And get a flyer print up probably before the next Shabbat.
New moon is March 30th.
New moon, March 30th. So next new moon, Feast of Purim, March 14th. Then new moon, March 30th. And then Passover, April 13th. Mark your calendars. Feast of Purim we'll be keeping here in Wilmington at the Brother Kalak's crib. If you'd like to come out, the information is on the screen. It's a potluck, so reach out if you plan on coming. Let us know what you can bring. It'll be March 14th, like I said already, at 1236 Thatcher Street, Wilmington, Delaware, starting at 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. So if you follow us or you're part of our congregation, get in touch. Let us know what you're going to bring and, come out. Enjoy the feast day. Enjoy the fellowship. And it's a 2-day feast. We're having it as a group March 13th, but it's also a 2-day feast. So don't stop feasting. If it's on your own at your house, continue the feast day. Purim is a 2-day feast. We don't usually talk about it, but everybody know that in here. It's a 2-day feast. Yeah. And the next, I think that's a Friday. So the next day is Shabbat. So we'll probably just everybody hang out here after Shabbat. If, whoever wants to, how we usually do. But it will still be a feast day. Still be the Feast of Purim at Friday and Saturday. Moving on, we got the Hamasharad Yasha'Allah 2025 Hebrew Summit this summer in Atlanta, Georgia. Mark your calendars for that. Start saving up money. You're booking your Airbnbs and planning that trip if you're going to come out. That's June 26th to 29th. All Israel is invited. If you're part of this camp, we definitely hope that you come down and caravan with us and make it down to Atlanta. But if you're not part of this camp and you're an Israelite, you're still invited. So there's that coming up in June 26th, 29th. Whatever days you can afford to come out, come out. Who doesn't want to go to Atlanta? I know last time I went, I had a good time. Atlanta and Florida, 2 places that I will be going back to. Summits or not. Contact information. You can get in contact with me through Facebook at We Are Israel, Maria Yasha'Allah, or Brother Yakinan, who's not here. They're checking out the goat for the Passover, whatnot. So he's not here. But you can contact Yakinan through Facebook at Brandon Daniels, Yakinan Maccabee Yasha'Allah. And that's on Facebook. Also, we have a Facebook group. If you're not a part of it, go to the Rise of the Chosen and hit the button to join our Facebook group, the Rise of the Chosen. All these contacts and everything I'm going on is on the screen. So if you type in these names and multiple outlets come up, the images are on the screen as well. Find the one with these images, and that's us. Also, we have a YouTube channel. We ask that you please like, share, and subscribe to our content on our YouTube channels. That's what we're live from right now today. ACE Red Pill Reality. That's where we go live from every Shabbat. And also ACE Reloaded. We have old videos, camp videos, edification on both outlets. So if you follow us and you're part of the congregation or the camp, please like, share, subscribe. And that's it for announcements. And now we'll get into it, back into the class, proving that the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians are indeed the true Jews and Israelites according to the Bible. So last week we left off, we were going through the curses. We were reading in this book called Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America, a book written by a brother named Ronald Dalton Jr. And we're reading his explanation of the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15 to 68. And the brother did a really good study and breakdown into these scriptures, each curse point for point in depth. So we'll be back into that, reading in that book. Also, after we finish with the curses, we'll go into some scriptures and images proving that even the people in the Bible were the angels, the Israelites, the Most High Self, all described as melanated people. When we're done with the curses, we'll finish out with that. And you put everything together that we've been bringing out the last 4 classes, and if you're still stuck in this delusion, thinking that you're black or you're an Egyptologist or whatever, if you watch all these classes and you're still confused and still got that veil over your face, then this information isn't for you at the time, and you're in the hands of the Most High. But with that being said, I'm gonna pull this back up and we'll get right back into it where we left off from last week, which I believe we left off at verse 36. So we're going to start there again at verse 36 as a refresher and move right along from there. 28 and 36. And today I turned my computer on early. I let everything load up, so Most High willing, we don't have any hiccups this week. I know the intro video played out with no problem. So Most High willing, the rest of the class go just as smooth as the video went. All right, so kind of picking back up the book Hebrews to Negroes by Ronald Dalton. And in your Bible, going over the curse in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 36. All these curses, as we read in the previous weeks, were to be as a punishment to Israel for turning away from the Most High, not keeping his commandments. And this was a punishment that would be put on the whole nation, the whole nationality of people, all the descendants of the man Jacob, whose father was Isaac and whose father was Abraham. Deuteronomy 28 lets us know that turn away from Most High, he would put these curses on those people specifically for disobedience. And you don't find that towards anyone else until you read in Deuteronomy 30, when once the curses have overtaken Israel and we come back to the Most High, then he'll turn the curses on the enemies. But that hasn't happened yet. Yahweh Shai, who the world knows as Jesus, his return hasn't happened, and the restoring of Israel has not happened. So we also read verse 46, I think, that the curses would not just be a punishment, but also for a sign. Because in the last days, and as a punishment, also Most High would take away our inheritance, our knowing who we are, and us being in tune with him anymore. And it would be a sign that in the last days, you would be able to see those people and know those are the people that I wrote about. Those are the people that I chose to be my people. Those are the special people because they're going through these specific curses and punishments that were laid down specifically for this people group. Okay? Okay. So Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 36. And it read, the Lord Yahweh shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. So this means, once again, he's letting you know this is going to be everybody. Nobody is in the clear. The king, the princes, the priests, everybody will be sent to another land, and there in that land, they would serve wood and stone. When you look on the screen, I got some images up. This is what it's talking about. Going into these different religions that are idolatrous, image-based religions, to tell the truth. None of them are actually God's true religion of keeping his laws, statutes, commandments, which is the only religion, the only way to serve the Most High God, being obedient. In this land of captivity, you would serve God's wood and stone. So different religions. Islam, going over to Mecca once in your lifetime to bow down to the Kaaba stone, or what they call this, what's that in Mecca? It's on the screen. We call it the Kaaba stone, but it's called the that building, that square little. Used to be the temple for all the gods. It's called the Kaaba. All right, Kaaba stone. Once in your lifetime in Islam, you have to go to Mecca and you gotta circle this rock, and you gotta bow to this rock. That's idolatry. You're serving stone. You're serving wood and stone, graven images, things made from man. Same thing with Catholicism. You got your rosary beads. A year ago, I rode down 95, and there was a whole big billboard that said it's some praying hands wrapped in rosary beads, and it says, "Pray to your rosary beads." So that's idolatry, and that's Catholicism. That's what a lot of our people, especially Northern Kingdom, are wrapped up in Catholicism, wrapped up in Islam. Both of these are religions where you're serving wood and stone. You also got your little Virgin Mary images. That's Catholicism. All those little statuettes. That's mostly Catholicism, especially in Europe. They have especially in Italy, they be having the parades where they carry these images. They got like 4 or 5 people hoisting them on their shoulders, walking around. They'll walk the whole village or city. And everybody comes out up and lines the sidewalk, just like a parade here in America. And, like say you drop one of them statues, everybody lose their mind. Like you actually dropped God. Oh my God, you dropped Jesus.
You see the video, they did that.
Yeah.
Man, one caught on fire. And they act like it.
And Northern Kingdom, they'll lose their mind. They'll lose their mind if one of their little Catholic churches burned down with the Virgin. All they care about is the Virgin was in. The Virgin was in there. The Virgin burnt down. It's off. This was going to be a curse on the Israelites that they, instead of serving the Most High, we would be serving these things. So, and then also you got the cross with Sweet Jesus on, right? That's your regular Christian church. Every black family has had one of these in their living room or the house somewhere, and now, maybe not so much today. Everybody's more into the rap world entertainment, but your grandma did. Like you might not have it today, but you definitely, damn well your grandma had it. Is when you go to church, it's up at the front. Everybody's praying towards it. So all these things, Mosai said that the Israelites would go and serve these things. And even some people with the Buddhists, some people, very few, but some of our people, they're even Buddhists. They're worshiping a Asian god. Never been to China a day in their life. Never been to Japan, Thailand, but they gotta follow the fat bald Chinese guy. So now we're gonna get into the book, Hebrews and Negroes. I already read the curse, so I'm gonna skip that part. And now the in-depth writings the brother put together. So page 284, Hebrews to Negroes, it reads, the children of Israel and slaves of African descent served many gods and worshiped many religions in the lands that they were brought to back in ancient times. So back in ancient times, you had, let's bring out Moloch, Ishtar, Baal, Mithras, Shun, Remphan, Dagon, Horus, / Heru. And today, bring it up to modern time, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Catholicism, Protestant, Jehovah's Witness, Satan, on and on, you name it, scrolling down. Mammon, which is your money and your possessions. All these things we worship here in Babylon, the great modern Babylon. Prior to Babylonian Pharisaic Judaism, Catholic Church, Christianity, and Islam, the Hebrew Israelites did not carry wooden crosses, wear blue hexagram stars, Star of David, or pray to a black stone in Mecca. Before the Catholic Church under the Roman Empire of Constantine would declare Christianity the religion of Rome and spread missionaries to Africa, the Hebrew Israelites living in Africa were still practicing the laws of the Torah. We already have went over some images. We'll re-look at some of the images of the Negro in Africa before America, keeping Torah customs. So they kept the laws of Torah, biblical Judaism, if you will, or laws of Moses. It would take 500 years after the fall of the Second Temple in Jerusalem for another monotheistic religion to be born. This religion, called Islam, founded by its prophet Muhammad, was based on Hebrew Torah. And we know, we talk about it all the time, it was based on Hebrew Torah. But when we get into the Quran, it's a, what you call it, a perverted version of Hebrew Torah. Version. Yeah, I said version. Perverted. Or perversion. That I still said the right way.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, but you're right. So it's a perversion of Hebrew Torah, and it's off because the Most High said obedience. Even with Saul did he fulfilled a perversion of what he was requested by the Most High, because he killed most of Amalek and saved the king and sheep. And Most High came back and said, you cast away my word by just doing that little variance. Nah, you messed up, and that's Islam. So that's what's being brought out now. The first five books of the Old Testament. In around 630 AD, through invasion, colonization, and slavery, the Arabs then brought Islam to Africa. The Israelites in Africa were then forced into Islam through the Arab slave trade, or from overwhelming pressure from being outnumbered in the land, Arab Muslim and Arab black Moors. The Israelites adopted Islam and then began praying to the black stone at Mecca, which is in Saudi Arabia, placed on the eastern cornerstone of the 43-foot stone cube building called the Kaaba. That's the name of it. Kaaba stone. The building's called the Kaaba. Almost a millennium later, the African slaves were introduced to European white-inspired Christianity with the complete Holy Bible, Old Testament. And also, we're going to be doing a class coming up on is Islam for Black people, and also the Christianity that Black people serve today is not even the original Christianity that the apostles and church fathers taught. So that's coming too. But reading on, modified by the Catholic Church. European Christianity brought the teachings of worshiping on Sunday, using the wooden cross as the symbol of Christianity, and believing in the image of a white man with blue eyes as the Messiah Christ. They taught that our black skin was the curse of Canaan, and that from this curse we were destined by God to be slaves. They taught that if we endured the harsh conditions of slavery, serving white earthly masters, we would receive our reward in heaven when we died. And this is true, ain't it? This is exactly what happened in slavery. If anybody's watching, if you want to dispute that, go ahead and write it in the comments and we'll deal with it. But these are all facts the brother's bringing out that has happened to our people over time and up to today. So it said they taught that if we endured the harsh conditions of slavery, serving the white earthly masters, we would receive our reward in heaven when we died, just like in the movie 12 Years a Slave. European Caucasian slave masters preached the word to the black slaves on Sunday and then raped the black females on Monday. The slaves were forced to learn the Bible and its teachings through the hands of their oppressors, same as today. Where do you go to school to get a pastor degree from? Theology school, seminary school, all ran by the same people that was up in them churches directing the pastor what to teach back then. They still directing what to teach today. The slaves were forced to learn the Bible and its teachings through the hands of their oppressors, never questioning what they were told or what they were shown as the image of God. The Europeans used the Christian religion with their added twists to help control the slaves. The Arabs and Europeans changed our names, our religion, and our culture. In America and Africa, the way religion was used to disconnect the Black Hebrew Israelites' heritage is still evident. Descendants of former slave masters have been told by their forefathers how black slaves were manipulated during slavery. On social media and in comment boxes, it is easy to see how this is true. Below is an actual comment made on social media by a Caucasian woman on Christianity and slavery. And in quotations, for black people, this is the Caucasian woman on social media, for black people to believe in the same God that allowed them to be enslaved shows their level of intelligence. We are living in the age of information. Why are they still believers? It makes no sense. This is a white woman saying this. We gave blacks Christianity because it made them better slaves. Even my great-grandpa told my dad that blacks accepting Christianity was the best thing that ever happened to white slavers. The fear of hell and promise of everlasting life is what finally kept the slaves from rebelling and running away. LOL. And nowadays, black people are still praising the very imagery white God who allowed them to be enslaved in the first place. Shouting and dancing with their wigs falling off in church. LOL. I'm no racist, but we all must admit that black Christian women are some funny mother effers. The only whites who believe in Christianity are the descendants of poor whites from those days. The rich whites didn't believe in that crap because they knew what it was being used for. Control over the slaves and poor whites. And she's on point. As racist as she may be, it's nothing but facts. It's nothing but facts, and it's a sad reality. And so Ronald goes on to write, now this person is clearly anti-Christian, but nevertheless, it shows that the Europeans' twist of Christianity was used to control the slaves and to allow justify black peoples as being a cursed people, especially using the story of Canaan. It was used to make us believe that we are Gentiles and also Canaanites. It was used to make us believe in a white Jesus Christ and adopt the belief that the children of Israel, 12 tribes of Israel, were white. In the Middle East and Africa, Islam was forced upon the African slaves during the Arab slave trade. Many children, for this reason, are born into Muslim families every day, despite its beginning roots with the inhumane Arab slave trade. Even today, Christians and Muslims are almost equal in numbers in Africa, with some sources saying Islam is the largest religion in African at 47% of the population. The other 53% composed of Christianity and other religions. Black Muslims all around the world pray toward Mecca today, but before 600 AD, Africa didn't know anything about Islam, and they most likely worshiped the God of the Abrahamic religion. And we know that's the Israelites that were scattered in Africa. Because the Hamites, they do voodoo worship, they sacrifice goats, and they divine using animal livers and all types of folly. The Most High God of the Israelites, they were most likely worshiping, or folk pagan religions. So that's your Hamites and your wicked Israelites. But what they were not following until 600 AD, Islam. Many African tribes in the past were following the laws of the Torah, such as circumcision on the 8th day, animal sacrifices, preserving the firstborn male livestock, not eating unclean meat, uncleanliness of menstruation, and the marrying of a widow to the next brother in the family. Over time, younger generations have lost some of these Hebrew traditions, but it is still not lost. The practice of ancient Hebrew traditions seen in African tribes today proves that our earlier forefathers were worshiping the God of Moses and Abraham before being introduced to Islam or European Christianity. Only Hebrews followed Hebrew laws and traditions. So this means that our ancient African forefathers knew these traditions because they must have been of Hebrew Israelite stock. That's 286. Now, before reading on, going over some of the images brought out in the earlier classes. Negroes on the west coast of Africa, fringes bordered the blue, numbers 1538, being kept while scattered in Africa. Before slave ships. So the brothers definitely made a good point with everything he brought out. This is Europe. We obviously know that we had a major presence in Europe, and this is a European king painted in one of their Adoration of the Magi paintings. They made sure to paint this black European king with fringes and border of blue. So this guy's decked out, but he made sure that he was keeping the numbers 1538. Once again, this is before slavery. Obviously, because a lot of our people don't even know about our presence in Europe. This is west coast of Africa. Priest got on the fringes. His fringes are blue and red. It might even be a little purple, but definitely got the blue and red, which we know the priest garments were instructed to use blue, red, and purple. He's also, he's praying over this brother and this sister with his hands on their head. That's also something that we can find in scripture. So, and I brought that out. You find in Acts 8:14-17, the apostles laying on of the hands. Now, when the apostles, which were at Jerusalem, heard that Samaria had received the word of God, they sent unto them Peter and John, who, when they were come down, prayed for them that they might receive the Holy Ghost. For as yet he was fallen upon none of them, only they were baptized in the name of the Lord Jesus. Then laid they their hands on them, and they received the Holy Ghost. And you find it other places as well, but that was something that Israelites did. When praying for other Israelites, sometimes they would lay their hands on their heads, and that's what we just saw with that priest on the west coast of Africa prior to being taken into European captivity. Slave ships, then land slave trade. This same thing here. This elder here got on the mitri, got the beard, got the garment with the fringes, top and bottom. And the ephod. So, this is West Coast Africa. This is exactly what the brother Ronald Dalton is talking about in his book for this specific curse. You go and you find the images painted during that time from white people of what they saw these people doing, how they dressed. This is what you find. Israelite Torah customs being kept. Back to Hebrews the Negroes. Page 287. Over time, like running from one plantation to another plantation, we have run from one religion to another, each time to a religion where its doctrines take us further from the truth and salvation. Christianity has many different Freemason-inspired sects / divisions, such as the Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witness, Roman Catholic Christianity, Protestant, and Lutheran Christianity. Newer Christianity movements such as Pentecostalism and the Black Hebrew Israelites have rapidly grown in numbers since as early as the 19th century. Ironically, these non-Freemason inspired religious movements have been most popular amongst African Americans, African, and blacks scattered across the seas. Fact number 1. European Freemasons, York Rite, Scottish Rite, never intended to allow black members ever. That's why blacks created their own Grand Lodge called Prince Hall Freemasons. Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Alex Haley, and civil rights activist Medgar Evers are well-known famous Prince Hall Masons. Medgar Evers, however, was still not equal to his white Freemason brothers because he was gunned down, shot in the back, and murdered in Jackson, Mississippi on June 12, 1963 by Klansman, Freemason, and Shriner Byron de la Beckwith. Racism in Freemasonry was made clear by famous Grandmaster 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason Albert Pike. White Europeans started the Catholic Church, Greek fraternities, the Freemasons, the Jesuits, and the Illuminati. Despite this, most blacks are members of organizations or religions founded and shaped by old-time racist European Freemasons. Albert Pike also once quoted, "I took my obligation to white men, not Negroes. When I have to accept Negroes as brothers or leave Masonry, I shall leave it." Christianity and American Freemasonry by William J. Wallen, pages 17 to 18. So that's proof. That's proof without a doubt that we've been subject to following wood and stone, the different religions and beliefs of our oppressors and captors throughout recent history and the past. Moving on from there, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 37, and it reads, "And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee." In the dictionary, the word byword is defined as a word or phrase associated with some person or thing. An example, nigger, coon, kafir, a bead, monkey, negro, tar baby, and the list goes on, wetback, jigaboo, it goes on and on. A word or phrase used proverbially, an example, a proverb. An object of general reproach, derision, or scorn. Reproach means to blame, disgrace, shame, or to express disapproval of someone. It says in the Bible, Jeremiah chapter 24, verse 9, "And I will deliver them to be removed into all kingdoms of the earth for their hurt, to be a reproach and a proverb, a taunt and a curse in all places whither I shall drive them." So it was wrote in Deuteronomy 28, and also Jeremiah came back and wrote it as well. In America, it is very clear that despite being brought here by force, we are still not given the respect of being viewed as humans to the rest of America. Our descendants were the victims of the constant taunting and shame. We were portrayed on TV by white actors and black faces as if we were animals. When the Black Hebrew Israelite slaves were stolen from Africa, they did not call us by our real names. He puts Black Hebrew Israelite to bring emphasis to them not being white. But we know that even that, we don't even call ourselves that. We know we just go by Israelite, because that's what we are, all different shades of brown. But reading on. So these Israelite slaves were stolen from Africa. They did not call us by our real names. They did not let us know that we were descendants of Hebrew Israelites. The Arabs and white Jewish slave masters made sure to erase our names because they held the link to our heritage. We were given Arabic and European names. When the older slaves died off, our entire heritage was lost. From then on, we were taught from scratch a new identity by our European or Arab slave masters, from the food we were to eat to the white blue-eyed Jesus and white Hebrew Israelites they made us believe was the truth. In America, they called us African American, Negroes, Igbos, Hebos, Ebos, niggers, jungle bunnies, Sambo, darky, tar baby, coon, monkey, undesirables, boy, jigaboo, kafirs, and so on. Today in the Middle East, Arabs refer to blacks as abd or abid. In India, Pakistan, African Indian people are nicknamed Sidis or the CDs or the Untouchables. In Latin America, such as Mexico, blacks are called Morenos, similar to the black Moors of Africa, and Iberia, Spain, or Portugal. These are all bywords, not describing who we really are. Our last names have been given to us by our enslavers. However, notice that in America, other races are not referred to as Arab Americans, Jewish Americans, Indian Americans, Filipino Americans, Chinese Americans, Greek Americans, Italian Americans, and so on. On forms, applications in school, we are described with 2 continents, African American. That leaves us with little to no description of what our heritage was over 1,000 years ago. Who was living in Africa years ago? Was it always called Africa? We know that there was no country called Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Congo, Cameroon, Senegal, or Gambia many, many years ago before the 1500s. So what were the people living back in ancient Africa called? Were they the Footies or Foot? Were they the Egyptians or Mitzrayim, Canaanites, or were they Israelites? Nevertheless, no other race is subject to so many bywords and taunting in America or the world other than black people. Is this just bad luck, or was it foretold in the Bible with the curses of Israel? We know that that's exactly what it was. It would be astonishment and a byword and a proverb, and that fits the so-called blacks here in America, as well as so-called Spanish Native American Indians. Next curse, Deuteronomy 28, verse 43 to 44. It reads that the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high. Thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Blacks here in America borrow money from every other race, and we primarily work for every other race because we don't own anything. We are always subject to working for other people who in most cases are not our own people. This is a fact. Because we have no capital, nor a black organization or a black central bank set up for blacks, we have to rely on borrowing money from financial institutions that are owned by non-black races. This means we also have to get credit from non-black financial institutions. Jewish people have tons of Jewish organizations and funds worldwide set up by Jewish donations. Their families send money to these organizations that in turn send money to other Jewish people, some who are distant relatives. By doing this, small hats have set up an economy within an economy. There are roughly 44 million African Americans in the USA. If every black person in America donated $1,000 to a black African American fund or bank, we would have $40 billion to use for the advancement of black people in America. And this is why this is what Kanye was pissed off about. Things like this. He wasn't so much pissed off about who they are. He was pissed off that we're the people and we can't get any of this community within ourselves, but they can. That's what he was jealous over, right? But this was a curse. This money could be used to set up statewide black banks that can issue out loans with little to no interest to help fund major developments and projects, schools, housing, businesses, property, farming, industries, agriculture, etc. that can be used to better the lives of every African American in America. Then we can begin to establish our own economy within an economy. We can work for each other and support each other. No worrying about fitting in with other races that don't want us to succeed. And that also, before I read on, that curse also showed out with the murder of Martin Luther King. Because if you watch the speech he did, what was it, before his murder, the something on the mountain. No, it was called something on the mountain. I'll have to look it up. Kalak, do you remember the name of it? The speech Martin Luther King did before his slaying. It was something on the mountain. Something like that. But either way, like he was talking about how blacks are God's people, but I don't believe that's what got him killed. He was talking about in that speech of blacks stop spending money and spend it within in-house. And basically what this brother brought out in this book, then we would get we would get on a higher level in society by having these organizations and banks and fundings and lenders, and we wouldn't be suffering. But the curse said that this wouldn't succeed. Yeah, because this is of the Most High.
That was already proven with the several Black Wall Streets across the country. Mm-hmm. We was doing better, segregated, way better,
right?
Because we was keeping our money in our community, mm-hmm. And then they wanted that though, so that we could spend our money with them, and it worked.
Because outside of so-called white people, I think we're probably the majority amongst so-called minorities. It's definitely spending wise, but even with getting wise, like it's more blacks in America than Chinese people, I think, right? Yeah. So they know that money, we need that money, and we let y'all go from change because we set it up so that y'all would go get this money and then put it right back into our economy. Like that, we know in this room that wasn't like that wasn't a repenting, that wasn't like it's wrong what we're doing. Nah, that played a very small part, but it didn't outweigh the fact that okay, we need them. So what got that done is okay, we need them. Now we got a way where we can still have them, but they think they're free. Mm-hmm. Huh?
I have the curse. You're talking about.
We're reading it. Which one you talking about?
2nd Ezra 6:58 and 59.
Oh, all right, yeah, you can read it. I thought you meant curse like Deuteronomy, but all right, yeah, to add to it, yeah. What you got? 2nd Ezra 6:58 to 59. Go ahead.
But we, thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sake, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this be? Endure.
Kind, just showing. So this was something that would be, this was the Most High's will. Like this was going to happen because punishment, and that's what Ezra was prophesying. Well, he was even talking about right there. He was talking about what he was saying then. But also later on, he prophesied the same things happening in the future in later chapters, and that's exactly what it is. So this is of the Most High, and that's why like many men have tried, even many different communities of our people have tried, like you brought out the Black Wall Street, Tulsa, and such. Wilmington, North Carolina. Yeah, all these attempts have been made, but they failed. Why? They failed because we haven't as a people came back and out of the punishments. Like we can find a little bit of grace and prosper being prosperous here, just like Daniel made it to number 2 under the king. But as a people, it's never going to succeed because we have not came back as a people and being obedient to the Most High. So you know when you look at us, that goes in line with what the scriptures say, because every other community, they can go to their own peoples to get loans. They can, if China can't get a loan here by their own people, they still can go get stuff from China, from their people over there. You know, there's a way for them to do that. Black people in America, it's out of the question. So I'm gonna read on. Unless you got something else, anybody?
I was gonna say too, just real quick. That goes against, that supports basically, you know, what we be saying about we can't be successful here, because every time we did something, they destroyed it. And you know, you got these Edomites that say, well, you know, y'all had the same opportunity. No, we don't, because every time we did something and built it up, y'all came in and destroyed it. We're jealous because of our success, and y'all came in and burned it down and destroyed it. We never was able to be, you know, flourish in our success, and that supports the curses.
Exactly.
Every time.
You know what? And that's why they're either ignorant to the facts or they're crafty and they don't care about the facts. But yeah, everything looks good until it becomes a threat. And that's when you see the truth of the matter, like you just said. Once it becomes a threat, oh nah, they getting too they building together, they too far along. Now that's when the destruction's coming. So they're going, because you gotta, to get a lot, you gotta give a little. So they'll give a little. So that we don't never be like, oh nah, hell really come together. They give a little so that they can take a lot, but they never gonna give a lot because it was set up that way. And you know, like we was talking about earlier, the rulers that be were set up not to terrorize good works, but the bad. And we still got plenty of bad works. So these terrors, these terrors are still going to stay in place. And Most High is going to keep them there because they're going to be here because he wants them there to be a terror to the bad works. Go, Yael.
Yeah. Also, in the past, a lot of our success, even though we got it, he wasn't keeping the commandments. That's why everything got destroyed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then the church system, we following their religions, and they taking us away from God more, and then we trying to set up stuff on the side. We trying to come together, and we trying to do it in the wrong direction. We trying to build up together going that way, but we supposed to be going that way.
Right. Every time you building up, you either building up as a Muslim, or you building up as a Christian, or you building up just these buildings. But
yep.
They're not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments not one time.
Yep. Kind of. So back to the book. And pick back up. So unity. It says unity is the key to our success, and America knows this. The Arabs, Jews, Indians, Asians, Europeans, and white America all know this about us. This is what white America feared when Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves and when Marcus Garvey proposed that all black people return to Africa. It is for this reason that white America dropped the idea of letting blacks go back to Africa. So while we are in America, the powers to be will never allow blacks to unify or become independent from their system. That's the thing. As long as you're in their system, using they won't allow us to be independent from their system using our money. And that's what we've seen in the history of America up to today. America needs blacks to be the workers, servants, or labor force of all the major companies and businesses we see around us. America needs blacks in sports and entertainment to make them billions of dollars. They don't want us to take back that control and start making our own $1 billion. However, since we have given up working for ourselves to work for others, we have voluntarily entered ourselves into a form of slavery. We borrow money from other races in the forms of high interest loans, credit cards, pawn shops, and payday advances because we have no money to even lend to each other. So the scripture, when it reads, he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him, is very, very real. Segregation forced and taught us that we could make it without the help of white America. Examples: Black Wall Street, 1921, Tulsa, Oklahoma. You brought up Wilmington, North Carolina. 1800s,
1898,
1898, roughly.
late 1800s.
God. We had our own community shops and did business with each other. That all changed with integration of blacks into white society after the abolishment of slavery and the civil rights movement. Even in the illegal world, the hoodlum world. Remember the movie Hoodlum? The Italians and it was the Irish cat mainly, but also the Italians. They all wanted a part of what y'all got going on in the black community. You got you're minding your business. You're doing your own thing. You got your own numbers racket. That ain't good enough. You're making money, though. We want some of that money. We still want you to stay away. Don't come mingling with us. But we want part of them dollars. So you see it on the legal spectrum and illegal. That all changed with the integration of blacks into white society after the abolishment of slavery and civil rights movement. Thereafter, we lost the Negro Baseball League, the Negro Basketball League, and all our black businesses. So moving on from there, Deuteronomy 28:48. This is the yoke of iron on your neck curse. The images don't lie. The images. This is what these images are from simple Google searches of yoke of iron on neck. That's who comes up. We know this is a fact in America. Deuteronomy 28:48 said, "Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck till it hath destroyed thee." And that physical yoke was there, and now it's a mental, spiritual yoke. And that's what we're going to read about here back in the book, page 292. Slaves worked in gruesome conditions in which they were in starvation and literal nakedness. Black slaves all over the world were shackled in chains, naked with an iron yoke around their neck, shackles on their hands, and shackles on their feet. Sometimes black slaves were attached to heavy pieces of wood or attached with chains to other slaves so that groups of slaves could not run away. This did not happen to European Jews during the Holocaust. What page am I on? 292. This did not happen to the Jews during the Holocaust. Here, so you can read along. What was that? Nor any other race in history other than blacks and brown-skinned East Dravidian Indians. So it also happened to blacks in India. No other race has been rounded up to be sold as slaves in America and in other countries in the magnitude that the black race has throughout history. It just hasn't. And that's why the Bible says prove all things, because the scoffers will come around or Edomites will come around and say, this happened to everybody. I'm like, okay, we'll prove it. That's just you talking. Yeah, that's a lie. That's just talk. Because you might be able to pull up like a history book that says Turks went into slavery. Yeah, well, where are the pictures? It was probably black Turks that went into slavery. Like, you're giving out where they lived at. They were citizens of.
Exactly. They wasn't removed from their land. Language took, culture took.
Exactly.
Stripped of everything.
Exactly. And there's no proof, visual proof. But you can find the proof with us as a people, but nobody else. So it's false. And even in them different countries, you find black people, like visual proof of black people in servitude amongst their people of antiquity. Moving on from there. Well, read it, keep continuing reading. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the one end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. These are some of the images of their not having a care for old or young, and being he said that a nation of fierce countenance, that not regard person of old, nor favor to the young. This is that nation right here. The nation that's done came up and built up to what you have today, United States of America, oh America, or even Canada, or even Mexico, or any of the countries of this hemisphere. They've all been conquered by the Europeans, and that's who's in power of all these lands, where blacks, so-called Hispanics, Native American Indians were in captivity and are on the bottom of society today. This is that nation of fierce countenance. So the victims of these people, there's the Israelites. See that? There's your nation of fierce countenance. There's your punished Israelite. There's your nation of fierce countenance. There's your punished Israelites. See that? It's written and it's in documented and is visual.
Yeah. I have a scripture for that as well.
For this one?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Deuteronomy 28:65.
Well, we're gonna get there.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. We're doing all of them.
Okay.
We're going all the way to the bottom. Might be, but hey, this is worth it. It's up to people to get on here and invest their time in finding truth. So the purpose of these videos, we could have did a short, like one class to sum it all up, But this the purpose of this is once you go through these classes and go through this information, you got to be an idiot to reject it. So this is your fierce countenance, nation of fierce countenance. Your nation of fierce countenance. Your nation of fierce countenance. You know, and these images, at one point they was just images. Like, oh yeah, that happened to us. Then when you got the scriptures, now the story becomes complete. Before the Bible, they're just like, oh, that's atrocious. You know, damn, my people been through a lot. But the Bible brings the story together. Back to the Hebrews and Negroes. Note, the irony behind this is that the European nations are referred to as Gentile nations instead of the nations of Ham and Shem. Even Paul the Apostle to the Gentiles did not go preaching to Africa, but to Europe. A person cannot be... I must have missed something. All right. I found it real quick. Just double check. I didn't skip something. Yeah, something's missing. Maybe I put on it backwards real quick. I just missed. I got you. I just missed one little portion. So I'll read it though. It ain't on the screen, but I'll read it to catch up. So verse 49, when we read the part of the Lord will bring a nation against thee from far, from the one in the earth, swift as the eagle flieth, nations whose tongue thou shalt not understand. It read, slaves did not know the language of their oppressor, nor the language of the land that they were sold to. Nations from afar, Spain, France, Britain, Holland, Netherlands, Portugal, Great Britain, Arabia, Iran, Iraq, India, Pakistan, European Jews, and other countries all participated in capturing and selling black slaves. They all took part in this, capturing and selling black slaves, which you see on the screen, all those different nations. Nothing about the Holocaust was Bible prophecy, and it wasn't. Because the European, and that, like, he's just bringing out facts, and they call this anti-Semitic, which we already brought up. That's BS, because Semitic means Afro-Asiatic. But this is a fact. The Holocaust didn't match Bible prophecy. When you go watch Schindler's List, you don't see a reflection of Deuteronomy 28. You don't. Because the European Jews were not taken from a nation afar, and they did, in fact, know the language because they lived amongst the Germans and other Europeans when they were thrown into concentration camps. And that's a fact. I was watching Schindler's List the other day. They was taken from Poland. That's even if they are, even if they really are people, that's still only a small portion. That's the people that was in Poland. This thing is the Most High's punishment on Israel is way bigger than being stuck in Poland. They were Hebrew-speaking Japhetic Gentiles who simply adopted the religion of Judaism. just as many Romans, Greeks, and Edomites had did before throughout early history. And this is a fact. This happened in history. You can read about that. Back then, everybody that practiced Judaism was called a Jew. Even King Herod was called King of the Jews. This is a fact. So I guess if you say Herod wasn't a real Jew, I guess that's anti-Semitic. But it's a fact. He was an Edomite because he ruled over Judea and was a follower of Judaism. This, however, does not make one blood DNA related to the children of Israel who lived in Africa and the Middle East. Some people believe that the eagle fly is referring to the eagle symbols for America, Europe, and the Holy Roman Empire. And it definitely is. And the way they came in and conquered was swift like an eagle. An eagle comes in, swoops down unbeknownst to the victim, and it's too late by the time he hits you. So verse 50, a nation of fierce countenance which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. Slave masters did not show any favor to women, children, old or young slaves. Everyone was regarded as property like cattle. The Jewish word for Gentile, called goy or goyim, puts everybody that is non-Jew into the category of animals like cattle. That's the part I missed. Now, note, the irony behind this is that the European nations are referred to as the Gentile nations, Genesis 10 and 5, instead of the nations of Ham and Shem. Even Paul the apostle to the Gentiles did not go preaching to Africa, but to Europe. A person cannot be anti-Semitic if the people they are talking about are descendants of Japhetic Gentile nations in Europe. In the past, slaves were not allowed to own property or guns because we were not considered human and thus were not justifiable American citizens by whites. White people back in the day believed black people were descendants of apes and previously had tails like monkeys. On the evolutionary charts of man, the ape is considered to be a descendant of the Negro/black man. Crazy. Note, anybody can research the monkey tail theory by searching on Yahoo or Google. The words white people with tails and black people with tails. The results are interesting. People can then come up to their own conclusions of what race has tails. Fact. So he said, so go, if you get time, go ahead and look it up. I guess what he's saying is you're actually going to find images of one of these people's groups being born with tails, but we ain't going to find it for the other. Fact. In 1906, a 23-year-old African Congolese pygmy male named Alta Binga was exhibited in the Bronx Zoo monkey house with an orangutan. America did this to prove the racial theory whites had about blacks in regards to human evolution, with the ape being the progenitor of the Negro. Wow. Deuteronomy 28:51. And ye shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind or flocks of thy sheep until you have destroyed thee. The land that slaves tilled plus the livestock they took care of for over 500 years was enjoyed by the slave masters and their families. Black slaves were never intended to be able to own any property, livestock, or guns. This phenomenon still happens today when certain races make it hard for blacks to qualify for home loans, liquor licenses, business loans, or to even advance in certain job fields. Verse 52, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. All of the places that the black Israelites lived and moved in in were destroyed, with all the walls being brought down by their enemies. Example: Assyrians, Babylonians, Greeks, Persians, Romans, Edomites, Arabs, and Europeans. In slavery, black people's fight wasn't enough to hold off their enemies from capturing them in Africa, just as it was done years ago in the Bible to their Israelite ancestors. Post slavery, white lynch mobs had their way with black families who were most of the time outnumbered and outgunned. The Hebrew Israelites had no choice but to flee further south into Arabia or flee in different directions in Africa to avoid persecution, captivity, and death. They had no choice but to flee into the forests of South, East, Central, and West Africa. This was foretold in the Muslim Holy Quran after 600 AD, when the Arabs captured millions of black Hebrew Israelites from Africa during the Arab slave trade. So it was foretold in the Bible, and then I guess he's saying then the Quran also says, mentions it. And he also should put Muslim unholy Quran, but we'll correct that. So foretold in the Muslim unholy Quran after 600 AD. And it reads, it says 033. 033.2026 to 033.027 650 AD. This is wrote in the Quran. And those are the people of the book who are black Hebrew Israelites who aided them. Allah did take them down from their strongholds and cast terror into their hearts, so that some ye slew and some ye made prisoner / slave. So it's not foretold. It told us something that they did. I think he mistakenly said that because the Quran has 0 prophecies and foretells nothing. Well, one person does say something about false prophets will be put to death. And Muhammad did die. So it has like 1 prophecy, and that's for its writer and followers that put this stuff out. And he made you heirs of their lands, their houses, and their goods, and of a land which he had not frequented before, and Allah has power over all things. And I guess this was wrote by one of their followers, Yusuf Ali, the clown that he be. Reading on. But just showing like this happened to us with the Arabs, the same as the Europeans.
But it's still happening with the Arabs.
And still, right? So it's still happening. And this was a curse that would come on the Israelites. Reading on, this was written in 7th century AD, 100 years before the European pagan Khazars would convert to Judaism, and 1,000 years before the Holocaust would happen. The Arabs didn't enslave European Caucasians in Africa, nor did they travel to Eastern Western Europe to enslave European Caucasian Judaism converts called Jews. The Arabs were talking about invading the lands of blacks and in Africa and Arabia and enslaving them. Only the people they conquered and enslaved in Africa, Arabia were the people of the book. The Kush Empire has been proven by many to include Arabia, Mesopotamia, and Africa. The black Arabs, for the most part, enslaved black people in ancient times. The Caucasian, Northern White, Ottoman, Turk Arabs, them added fuel to the fire by continuing the enslavement of black Hebrew Israelites. Remember, the first black Arabs, Midianites, sons of Keturah, and the Ishmaelites sold Joseph to the Egyptians. And in case you didn't know, Arabs also were Midianites. That's a fact. Josephus even testifies to that. So the Midianites and Ishmaelites.
And all the Arabs are mostly Abraham's 6 other sons, right?
Yeah, mostly Ishmaelites, but also Midianites, sons of Keturah. Um, so that's who sold Joseph to the Egyptians. This was one of the beginnings of slavery type practices in the Bible. Folks, we need to seriously wake up. It is a known fact that most of the African countries between 1881 and 1914 were partitioned up like a pizza by different European nations, also known as the Scramble for Africa. European countries invaded, occupied, colonized, and drew up boundaries of African territories, often sparking civil war between different African tribes. They then changed the names of these African boundaries or countries as they saw fit. The Europeans' main reasons for occupying Africa were the Europeans wanted to spread their Western language and Western culture. This included their way of dressing, religion, education, and administration, since Africa was previously referred to as the Dark Continent. They wanted to spread Christianity in East Africa so as to prevent the spread of Islam by Arabs who dwelled in the north after its invasion in mid-600s AD. By the end of the 19th century, there was an industrial revolution in Europe, and therefore the Europeans were looking for raw materials to feed their industries. Example, cotton, coffee, minerals like gold, copper, diamond, tin, and animal products like ivory, hides, and skins. They wanted to invest their surplus capital in East Africa for high profits. They invested their capital in mining and farming. The Europeans were overpopulated and therefore wanted to get new areas in East Africa where they could resettle their surplus population. They would set up white European colonies in high population areas where they could extract raw materials from the land of Africa and also sell manufactured goods to the Africans, which were made in Europe. The white Europeans wanted it all and decided to take it all, just as in the Bible, where Elisha's servant Gehazi would let greed eventually bring him and his descendants the curse of white skin from God. And you read that in 2 Kings 5:27, said, the leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave unto thee and unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence a leper as white as snow. The Europeans also were interested in East Africa to get territories for prestigious purposes, because the more territories a European power had, the more powerful it would be considered. Examples, France dominance over West Africa. Unemployment in Europe also prompted the scramble and partition of East Africa. Machines replaced human labor in Europe, thus creating unemployment. Because of this, there was a need to acquire colonies where their people could be employed. The rise of nationalism in Europe also caused the scramble and partition of East Africa. European countries developed national pride and superiority over others. Therefore, possession of colonies became a symbol of superiority. For example, Germany and Italy were moved by the influence. For this reason, Italy invaded Somalia, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. Strategic reasons also led to the scramble and partition of East Africa. Following the construction of the Suez Canal, Britain realized that Egypt could not survive on its own without the Nile. Therefore, they colonized Sudan, Uganda, and Kenya. Britain had some success in halting the slave trade around the shores of Africa, but inland, the Muslim Arab slave traders from the north and on the east coast were still stealing and selling blacks for slaves. The Arabs did not want to give up the use of slaves that they were used to having for over 1,000 years. The end of the European transatlantic slave trade left a need for making money. Capitalism experts saw a different opportunity to make money off of Africa. They wanted to exploit Africa by doing trade in Africa, which they still do this to this day. European explorers searched high and low for large reserves of raw materials. They plotted the course of trade routes, navigated rivers, and identified high population areas which could be the market for selling manufactured goods from Europe, like clothes, guns, beads, glassware, etc. Within 40 years, by 1914, and at the end of the scramble for Africa, Great Britain dominated most of Africa from Egypt to South Africa, as well as Nigeria and the Gold Coast. The French occupied West Africa. The Germans controlled Tanzania and Namibia. The Portuguese controlled Angola, Mozambique, and the island of Cape Verde off the west coast. The Italians controlled Somalia and tried to take over Ethiopia, Eritrea. In the end, only Ethiopia and the African American state of Liberia remained independent. Europeans conquered Africa and the Americans easily because of previous agreements not to sell guns to Africans, African Americans, and Native American Indians. This meant that Europeans had a huge weapon advantage in whatever foreign land they went to because the native of the lands most likely did not have access to guns. Bands of just hundreds of white European men armed with a couple machine guns could obliterate thousands of Africans or American Native Indians in hours. So that was the curse from 49 to 52. Now we're moving on to the curse of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 53. It says, and thou shalt eat. So as a punishment from God, he said to the Israelites, thou shalt eat the fruit of thy own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee in the siege, and in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee. One can only imagine what the slaves had to go through to survive on the slave ships while they were captured and overpacked in the hull of the slave ships. Most slave ship voyages across the Atlantic Ocean took several months, 6 to 8 weeks. The most common routes for slave ship voyages were fashioned in a triangle formation called the Middle Passage, or triangular trade. The slaves were chained below the deck all day and all night, except for maybe brief periods of exercise. Lack of food, filth, stench, rape, disease, and death were some of the gruesome horrors the slaves had to go through on the slave ships. One can only imagine what our forefathers had to do in order to survive on a ship for 2 months if food ran out. They might have resorted to eating the flesh of the dead on the slave ships in order to survive, even if it meant family members. There have been old reports in slave trade history that have suggested that cannibalism was practiced among slaves during the trip across the Atlantic. It is a known fact that there are many tribal people all across the world, descendants of Africans, who practice cannibalism even up until modern times. Deuteronomy 28:54. So that a man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil towards his brother and towards the wife of his bosom and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. Black people, African Americans, Africans, Jamaicans, Haitians, Brazilians, etc., have been brainwashed to show more distrust amongst our people than other races. This is why many blacks choose to do business or work for other races than their own. We will trust a white man before we will trust our own people. We are more worried about new black neighbors than neighbors of other races. Even parents sometimes are jealous when they see their own children surpassing them in terms of success. As blacks, the saying, misery loves company, holds very true, because when we are all broke, we share a common story. But as soon as one of us starts to succeed in life, our own people and sometimes even siblings will not celebrate in our happiness. Instead, they Instead, they may be bitter, hoping for your downfall because they don't want to see you surpass them. When we were kids and as siblings, blacks learned to trust one another. We didn't have an evil eye towards each other when we were all kids. After going through life and growing up, people turn colder. Happiness turns into jealousy, love turns into evil, and trust turns into mistrust. Things have changed, although we are of the after going through life growing up, happiness turns into jealousy, love turns into evil, and trust turns into mistrust. Things have changed, and although we are of the same race, we do not see each other as fellow black brothers and sisters. Tupac wrote about this in his rap song, Changes. And he wrote, I got love for my brother, but we can never go nowhere unless we share with each other. We got to start making changes. Learn to see me as a brother instead of two distant strangers. And that's how it's supposed to be. How can the devil take a brother if he's close to me? I love to go back to when we played as kids, but things changed, and that's the way it is. Tupac Shakur. And that's the way it is today. That's the way it's been and the way it still is. And we see that in our communities today with the constant killing of each other in our neighborhoods. Just as in the song above, two black men walking down the street oftentimes will see each other as strangers, wondering if this person has ill intentions of robbing or killing the other person. Black men are more likely to die at the hands of their black brothers than any other race. This verse is I shall be evil towards his brother fits our race to the T. Other races, such as Jews, Arabs, Chinese, Japanese, Indians, and Caucasians, etc., do not kill each other like we do. This anger or evil spirit is also often passed off to our black women, wives, and children. This leads to high divorce rates, high fatherless homes, and increased domestic violence statistics that are higher in African Americans than any other race. Up to 65 to 70% of African American women are not married, either from divorce or simply not finding a suitable spouse in their lifetime. A lot of black women can say that they are mothers, but cannot say that they are wives. This is a huge problem in the black community. The scripture in Deuteronomy 28:54, toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave, states that the black men would have a high incidence of leaving their children behind, and that that his eye would be evil towards them. It also states the Israelite men would have an evil eye towards his fellow black Israelite brothers. This is very true today if you look around in the black community and also watch how the media portrays black men on TV. This division of the black family, coupled with the friends of the court and baby mama daddy situations, prevents both parents from working together for the betterment of the child. This creates negative feelings and attitudes in the father that are sometimes directed towards the child or the mother. These negative attitudes can spark from money issues, parenting time issues, or disagreements in the parenting practices of the other parent. The animosity that stirs up when black families break apart brings up new issues such as child support and parenting time. This is seen every day in the Friends of the Court in every state in America. However, the black family has suffered more from the quote-unquote Friends of the Court system than any other race in America. The black family core was destroyed during slavery, and it continues today as generations of black children are growing up with a dysfunctional, destroyed family unit. Animosity, vindictiveness, and greed often get in the way of co-parenting after a breakup. Therefore, we see black men separated from his black female counterpart, wife or girlfriend, and from his children with help of the quote-unquote friends of the court. Outside influences from the mass media, along with its stereotypes and agendas, have now led to the uprising independence of the black female. In turn, it has caused the demoralization, demasculinization, effemination of the black man, and the changing of roles in the black family structure. The man who was once the provider for his family is now degraded to being not needed, except maybe for child support and supervised parenting time. The children learn to not have respect for their father because they see their mother and other female figures, such as aunts, grandmothers, running the show. Also, many times black women in real life on TV shows, example, Ivana Fix My Life, and movies, example, The Family That Prays, show the black men in a negative light. And those examples are just one of many, right?
What we're looking at is we're looking at the effects of the curses that were put on us. But
Exactly.
we're looking at the people who profit from those curses that are placed on us. We see that the Jewish nation has their fingerprints all over.
Oh, hell yeah. All
Go
of
into
them.
the court system, they run those court systems, and they prophesize off of the misery and doctrine and all of the division that's inside of our family. Who profits that? You go to a Jewish attorney to get help to fight with your man over child support. So every curse that we see in the Bible, you can track it back if you do forensics and see that the Jewish man's fingerprints are right there on the crime scene.
You can. And that's a good point. All the way back to the slave ships, right?
All the way back to the
That's who was owning them. These are just facts. These are just facts. So another fact they wrote in this book. Movies like Scandal, Deception, Waiting to Exhale, Diary of a Tired Black Woman, or Mad Black Woman, Precious, for Colored Girls, Why Did I Get Married, The Family That Prays, Temptation, Django, The Butler, 12 Years a Slave, and Addicted. They all subliminally portrayed a black man in a degrading, negative way. Is this a coincidence or just good old black humor?
Put that movie Beloved on there.
What movie?
Beloved.
I don't think I've seen that one.
That's crazy. Oprah Winfrey.
I have to check it out.
The Slim Girl, man. The Slim Girl. She's the daughter that came back.
Him, please.
Right? She was
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out.
yeah, it's
But Beloved, okay, Con.
But there's one thing we do know, that you won't see a Jewish version of Beloved.
Yeah,
You
you
won't
won't.
see a Jewish version of Precious.
Or
because
Emancipation.
it wouldn't be permitted to go across the air.
Or Roots.
So we know the author of those who control that spirit of media, that medium of media, that this is the people who are behind it. Their fingerprints once again is there.
Con.
And Kanye got in trouble because when he was asked the question, who owned the media? And he showed you the spreadsheet of who owned the media.
Right. Yeah. So moving
no, I was gonna say Kanye gave a blueprint of how to buck that though. Just say forget their money. And build up your own money again.
Con.
But that's another story.
Yeah, and we tried it though. So yeah, we know what we have to do. We have to come back as a people to being obedient to the Most High. And so moving along to the next punishment, it's in verse 55. It said, so that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he have nothing left him in the siege, and in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates. America and the other participating countries involved in the slave trade have never intended on giving back reparations to the descendants of black slaves in America. They left us nothing but the deaths of millions of slave men, women, and children. White America didn't believe we deserved anything. Black slaves were treated like nothing and told they were nothing. So when the slave master gave them something, it was the cause for extreme happiness or gratitude. Even the biracial children of white slave masters were treated like nothing and got nothing. This type of behavior has been passed down from our black forefathers because, in their eyes, if they never received anything but worked hard for it, then that's how they would treat their children growing up. This type of parenting often has the potential to backfire, causing a division in the family and a conditioned response for us to not trust others, especially our own race. For example, 1800 slave master would say, "You ain't nothing, you'll never be nothing, and I'm not giving you nothing." 1900s white grandfather to his mixed black grandchildren, "You ain't ish, you'll never be ish, and I'm not giving you ish." Bring 2000s black mother describing her children's father, your daddy's ain't ish, and he'll never be ish, and if you keep up, you'll be just like him. Or 2000s black father to his son, "My parents ain't giving me nothing. I had to work hard and earn it on my own, so I'm not giving you anything. You're going to have to earn it on your own just like I did." Worldwide, we have not seen any reparations for our oppressors, despite them taking everything from us and using us to build their nations. Despite all of these atrocities toward black people, even the Native Indians of America and European Jews have gotten reparations for their persecution, but not blacks. Blacks that were slaves of Indian tribes and justified descendants through interbreeding, Cherokee freedmen, for example, still have not gotten their just due reparations from the Indian tribes they descend from or from our government when they were handing out reparations to the Native Indian tribes. Well, the real Native Indians didn't receive that either. Yeah, so he should have clarified that. But yeah, the $5 Indians were that means the fake Indians were the only ones to receive anything. The real Indians didn't receive nothing. Like I said, this brother's got some doctrinal differences that tend to show sometimes. He's not so much on the natives, but we know that it's both.
I have that as a curse here too. Deuteronomy 28:58. The difference between.
Well, we're going there.
Keep it going.
Yeah, kind of. We're at 56 now. So we're going down through all of them.
He has it in numerical order.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. That's why I just been reading through his, because he goes in detail with everyone. Might as well just let him do the work. It could, like I said, it could have been, we could have proved in like a 2 to 4 hour class. Boom, just gave a little, bits and pieces. But this is in depth, undeniable. So yeah, he went through each one. So we go into that one. So we're almost there. 28:56. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not venture to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eyes shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. We see this going on today in the black family, as stated above. This is part of the problem why there are so many teenage pregnancies in African American girls and so many African American males in prison. Now we are also seeing an increase in African American females going to prison now, following the trend of the men. If a house is divided, it has no chance of standing. In a marriage, each person should help, support, and uplift one another. No one should be trying to outdo the other, and no one should be trying to tear down the other person. We see that the result of broken black families is troubled children growing up. This is why our children are falling by the wayside compared to other races. Remember, 2 heads are better than 1. Unity always has better outcomes than if we try to do things individually. Deuteronomy 28:60-63. Let me make sure that I want to be there. Yeah, kind of. So moving on to the next one. But everything that we read above, that's exactly what we see with our own eyes every day today. Right, Con? Con.
It's, from 59 down to 61.
Oh, you're right. Hold on.
Did you put that in there?
Hold on. Yeah, he definitely did. Something must have happened to my document. So, because I jumped to 60.
Yeah, you went from 56 to 60.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, he didn't. So, you know what? Bring out your precept. You said, so go ahead, bring that up. Verse 58, you said.
Oh, okay.
Kalak wonder.
Kalak. Huh? All right. Let's see what I got to hit is after 58. So that was you was talking about. Yeah, precept 58. But 58 and 59 and 60 and 61 go together.
Okay. I was using Deuteronomy 28:58.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the curses that we see that prevail inside of our nation of Israel. This is what the Most High says in regards to that. If thou were not observed to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Yahweh thy power. The other nations are not subject to this curse because they have no contract.
Right.
So it's pointing us out as being specific. It's identifying who Israel is as well.
Right. Because yeah, that's what he went into, but that's why it's not in the book. So yeah, that's just reiterating. So 58 to 59, reiterating that not coming back and keeping the commandments. That it said he'll make the plagues wonderful in verse 59, and the plagues that I see, even great plagues of long continuance, and sore sickness and of long continuance. So just reiterating what we read in 28, 15, 46 is reiterating 58 and brings us
And Salaki, like you were saying earlier, we were talking about the burning of our cities, the drowning of many of our cities, and Black Wall Street and all of that. These are here once again where we rose up and the Lord has given us a spirit, a place of grace to do, but it was without the Lord. We weren't keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. The Most High wasn't behind.
Exactly, and so they were doomed to fail because without the obedience, the blessings don't come. Yeah, Pastor was wrong. It ain't no send your money, you're gonna prosper. It was always obey the laws, statutes, commandments, then I will make your hands to prosper.
There's no law or death.
Con. So now that brings us to Deuteronomy 28, 60 to 63. And it reads, moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou wast afraid of, they shall cleave unto thee. Also every sickness and every plague, which is not written in the book of this law, them will Yahweh bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. And ye shall be left few in number. Whereas you were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy God. And it shall come to pass that as Yahweh rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so Yahweh will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. And we see when you look at the statistics, you see what? You see like you got HIV here on the top left. In the left side of the screen, and It's a rating of new infections per 100,000 by race. This was done in 2010, which hasn't changed since then. So this is good. Blacks 68.9%, Latinos 27.5%, white 8.7%. And we know you can just go ahead and combine these two. So you can go ahead and combine these two. Then you got, look at that, Asians, whites 8%, Native Americans, that's Native Hawaiians 19, American Indian. You know, we can American. You can put that with these two. And then multiple races, and you can pretty much most of them you can put with these three as well. But it's staggering differences.
It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A comment. It's horrific to be able to look at a chart like this right here and be able to find the 12 tribes of Israel. You can use charts like this, charts of curses, to say here they are. This must be them. Mm-hmm. This must be them.
That's why it's so overlooked. People just can't believe it.
Yes.
People can't believe it. But I mean, when you sit back and you look at all the atrocities and the poor history, mm-hmm. and everybody, I don't think anybody will look at it and not wonder how and why. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you ain't never gonna find the answer to how and why until you open this book up, and the Most High brings you here.
That's right.
Adult diabetes. This was taken in 2012. Total population 16%, white non-Hispanic 12%, then black non-Hispanic 20.2%, then Hispanic 16.7%. So you can combine them together because we know that's the same people, way out overshadowing the white demographic.
And they severely keep practicing that, trying to make us believe that we're different people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even among our people, they swear that the Hispanics is not a part of us. Most of them don't even think they are.
Yeah, because they just choosing one way or the other. Like Scripture said that Ephraim was a cake unturned. He'd mix himself among the nations. So it's no wonder that the Northern Kingdom, sure, a lot of people that are of the Native American countries, like Puerto Rico, Mexico, Argentina, you name it, they have a high mixture of European in there. They do. Mm. But now we're going to sit here and say, well, because of that, they're all Europeans, or because it's a possibility that some of them are Europeans. Well, we're not going to give you the title of you're in with us. You can't do that. Because we know it goes back to the father's seed. You might as well say that the white man came in and spread all his seed and your seed stopped working. But we see even today, we see the stats show that if there's a seed not working, it belongs to the Caucasian. But yeah, so the diseases, he said he would bring plagues of diseases. You got cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease by race. Caucasians, you got your Caucasians down between the red is for women, blue is for men. So your Caucasians are down here in the between the 30 to 40 level. Then your African Americans up here, 40 and 50, 45 to 50. This is prevalence of CVD percent-wise. So that's almost half the people. Then same with Hispanics, they right around Caucasian level. But blacks, is more prevalent than everybody. Hypertension. African Americans leading the pack again. Then American Indians which these guys go together. So, and then you got whites at 23. But every time the blacks, so-called blacks, every category on top, everyone. Like, it's understandable that the American Indian and Hispanics are lower than blacks, because there's more mixing in these categories than this one. I did that one twice. The same thing. So I can put that on there twice. Now moving on. So that was that. Verse 62. You shall be left few in number, whereas you were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy God. No other race in the world has experienced as much loss of life from slavery, famine, war, poverty, disease, or mass executions as the black people, that of black people. It is a known fact that left unchecked with none of the above factors contributing to death of black people or people of color would dominate the population of the world as we know it. Black people dominated the world in the beginning because the majority of the world was black in ancient times. The original man, Adam, was black, as unto the ground, which is dirt. He was formed from. Adam was not red or ruddy like the Kool-Aid man. Color cannot be made out of no color, white, just as white skin cannot turn black. Black skin can however, turn white. Vitiligo, albinism, fade creams. Up till today, mankind, mostly European, has sought to enslave, kill, and destroy people of color, parentheses, blacks, because they have taught the world to view blacks negatively as ugly or subhuman. Europe has single-handedly colonized and controlled almost every major continent on Earth: Africa, the Americas, India, Caribbean, Australia. The population of blacks in Africa and America would be hundreds of millions higher if it wasn't for the curses that were predicted and placed on the Israelites by God thousands of years ago. So many millions of black Africans have died, never having the chance to have a family and multiply on earth. If Joseph and the children of Israel walked into Egypt with 70 souls and left after 400 years with around 2 million people across the Red Sea with Moses, imagine the amount of black people that would be in the world today if it wasn't for the deaths of millions of black people. In ancient days, we were as numerous on the earth like the stars. The curses of Israel foretold that millions of the real black children of Israel would die off. 64 to 65. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. Black Hebrews from Africa were stolen into slavery to be scattered across the west, north, east, and south nations of this world. People of color dominate the world, and from people of color came all the races of man. Black people have been taught to serve other gods from the different religions they were around or exposed to. The Hebrew Israelites never worshiped the cross, used a hexagram for their symbol, wore hats on their heads, or wore chains with crosses on their neck. They didn't practice the religion. I think he's talking about those small hats. Never wore those. They didn't practice the religion of Judaism, nor call themselves Jews. These are the lies brought by the whitenization of the Bible and its stories from Europe. The Hebrews were akin in skin color to the ancient Ethiopians and ancient Egyptians. For this reason, many Europeans back then believed Hebrews were of Ethiopian and Egyptian stock. Blacks today still worship pagan idol gods through secret societies, materialistic objects, and money. Blacks also practice many religions such as Islam, Judaism, Catholicism, Pentecostal, Baptist, Protestant, non-denomination, Scientology, Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventists, and so on. Blacks are naturally religious, spiritual people, and because of this, we are easily misled. Blacks scattered around the world are economically, educationally, socially, and politically suppressed in whatever land they live in. This is a known fact and was predicted in the scriptures. The devil today tries to destroy God's black children in many ways, especially by finances. For those who turn their faces to God and adhere to his laws, blessings will follow. Satan likewise blesses those that adhere to his practices with the materialistic things of this world, mainly fame, sexual desires, and fortune. 66 to 67. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. During slavery, many blacks were in fear of what was going to happen to them or their family, depending on the mood of the slave master. An angry slave master could easily kill any of his slaves, depending on what happened throughout the day, and the slaves could easily be sold or traded to another plantation. In The Butler, young Cecil's father, the rapper David Banner, is shot in the head for his reaction to the slave master's demand for his wife, Mariah Carey. This show, which was played by Mariah Carey, this shows how easily blacks were killed. During slavery, the black slaves constantly were on edge with fear, not knowing what each day would bring. This happened in the Arab slave trade, the Indian Ocean slave trade, and the transatlantic slave trade. Blacks went through unimaginable torture and abuse as slaves that no race in history has experienced. Post-slavery, blacks still had to be prepared for white riots, lynch mobs, and KKK racist demonstrations. Parents today still fear for their black children as they get older and venture into the black people, even now after I left off at okay. Parents today still fear for their black children as they get older and venture into the real world, a white man's world that looks down upon the black race, a world where the legal system is different for blacks and whites, a world where a black life is not viewed the same as a white life. Even now, after the abolishment of slavery, many blacks feel uncertain about their future and their life. Black people have to work twice as hard and be perfect in order to get any kind of acceptance or recognition in school or on the job. A lot of black people cannot go to work without worrying about being messed with on the job, even though blacks today are not enslaved by the white man with iron chains and bullwhips. We are enslaved mentally. We are also enslaved financially with excess spending despite our poverty. So now the black man's gold chains and fancy whips can be seen as modern day iron chains and bullwhips. Many young blacks work during the daytime instead of going to school or spending time studying because they need the money to survive. This is the reality that blacks face every day, and with it may often ask the question, am I going to make it down the road, or what is going to be my future? This lack of assurance or feeling of certainty or strong feeling of confidence about yourself is more prevalent in the black community more than any other racial community in America.
I got a precept.
What you got?
Daniel 9.
Mm-hmm. Daniel 9. Go ahead, read. Or 11, get that from Daniel 9, 11 to 12.
Yeah,
You going to read it? All right, make sure it's loud for the.
If you want to read, because you're close to
Yeah, you can get it. Daniel 9 and 11.
12.
11 to 12. Good. You need help? Daniel's after.
All right, got it. Here.
You're at 9?
Or Daniel.
Put 9. 9, 11.
The book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 11. Yeah, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore, the curse is poured upon us. And the oath is written in the law of Moses, the servant of Yahweh, because we have sinned against him.
Mm-hmm.
And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the world whole heaven hath not done as hath been done upon Jerusalem.
Okay. So that was it?
Yeah, that was it, because it said, again, when you started reading 66, 67, it said, this has not been done to another people
Okay.
on the earth. And
Yeah.
Same.
Right. He brings these punishments on Israel. So, and it's the same today as in time of Daniel. God.
You were talking about how Judah, we see that Judah is in the crosshairs of the affliction, but yet the northern tribe is a greater multitude. And why is Judah put in the crosshairs by Esau? Well, that's what this scripture is. Jeremiah 23 and 5. Because there's a promise. Behold, the day comes, saith Yahweh, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch. A king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice on the earth. And his day Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is the name whereby we shall be called, the Yahweh our righteousness. Therefore, behold, the days cometh, that saith the Lord, that they shall no longer say, Yahweh liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but the Lord liveth, which brought us up, and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and in all the countries whither I have driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land.
Showing what? That the north country would be the center stage of this end time being subject to curses and then coming out of time.
If you kill Judah, you could probably elongate their kingdom, because they understand that Judah, they're looking for the Christ child,
right?
And they see that it's promised to come out of King David.
And then in end times, it would be Judah who raises up everybody else. Okay, let's keep it moving. We're getting to the end. 28:68. 28:68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way, wherever I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. There you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy, which really means redeem you. Egypt in the Bible is synonymous with a land of bondage. You find that in Exodus 20 and 3 or 2. We know that God did not deliver Moses and the Israelites out of the Pharaoh's hand, only to deliver them back into his custody for a second era of slavery. We also know that you do not need ships to go from Israel, the land of Canaan, into Egypt, Assyria, or Babylon. Note, Joseph walked into Egypt 70 souls deep. Joseph and the Israelites didn't get on ships to bury their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. And Jesus' parents didn't get on a ship to flee into Egypt until Herod died. So we know that's not talking about where we served in ancient Egypt. That's what he's proving. And the curse, though, states that in the future, we would be, for punishment, we'd be sent back to Egypt on ships. So we're seeing that it's not possible to be talking about that Egypt, because we walked out of it, walked back in. There was no problems or need for the ships. The scripture also says that we shall not see Africa or Israel again. Have black people who were victims of slavery and thus scattered to different nations of the world been all brought back to the place they were taken from? No. Have all the black people that's supposed to be that. So this stuff was in here. I'll continue reading it. Pull up these images. Have 68. And it says, have all the black people in Haiti, in Haitian, Dominican Republic, Jamaican, Brazil, Cuban, Iranian, Iraq, Yemen, Arabia, North America, South America, India, and East Asia been brought back to Africa or Israel? No. This means that the real descendants of the children of Israel are still lost. Ashkenazis will say that they are from the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, or the priestly tribe of Levi, Kohanim. They have no proof. And why would God keep the other 9 tribes of Israel lost, allowing the other 2 tribes, including the tribe of Levi, to come back to Israel in 1948, especially when he already did that? He did that from the Babylonian captivity. After that, future prophecy was when we return, we all would return. You just read it. We both come out of the land of the north. So that doesn't make any sense at all. This is not supported in the Bible anywhere. Moving forward, so what is the scripture talking about when it mentions ships, bondmen, and bondwomen? Black Hebrew Israelite slaves were rounded up and scattered across the world in ships. Hitler didn't round up all the Europeans in ships and sell them across the world as bondmen and bondwomen, did he? Which is another word for slaves. People need to see who is lying and start realizing the truth. The curses of Israel in Deuteronomy 28:16-68 are foretelling the hardship of slavery that the black Israelites would have to go through in the future. Once the slaves were sold, no man brought them back, and never again have we as a people been brought back in ships to our native land, Israel. The word buy in Old English was also synonymous with the word redeem or save. Redeem means regain possession of something in exchange for payment, to free from captivity, buy payment, to buy back. If you were to redeem a slave, you would be essentially setting that slave free, just like slaves could have their freedom bought if they or someone else had enough cash to redeem them. That's in the law. That your uncle, your brother, whoever could buy you back. And that's what it's talking about here. Also, if you were to redeem someone, you are saving them from evil or bondage. So it can't mean no man buy you, because like in terms of you be a slave anymore, that wouldn't be a curse. That would put it in the verses 1 to 15. But this is a curse. So no man buy you is talking about redeeming. So Israel would be sent to Egypt again, slavery again on ships, and would see home no more again, and there be sold unto enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. No man buy you, meaning redeem you. No man's going to come and buy you out of that slavery. You're going to be tossed around and sold as bonds, because that's what it was. It really was trading of bonds when a slave was sold. A lot of times the slave was sold because the owner couldn't pay his debt to that bond. So how do you get rid of his debt? By getting rid of you. Yeah, so that's why buy you or buy your bond. You are a bondman and your bond was being bought and sold by masters. Nobody ever came and bought you out.
You don't have to worry about being bonded out. You have created a global economy based on imprisoning people.
So he writes in this book, in conclusion, Deuteronomy chapter 28 is talking about Hebrew Israelites and future Negroes. That's right. Those who would in the future be called Negroes. This Bible is talking about you. Not the white European converts who were held in concentration camps for only 12 years. This is not disrespect what the Europeans went through back then. Deuteronomy 28 clearly showed that the curses of Israel don't fit their people. Remember, the curses of Israel were not lifted when Jesus was born, and I'm going to go to scripture to show that, nor were they lifted after he died and was resurrected, like the Christian church teaches. If they were all of the 12 tribes of Israel would have come back to the Holy Land, and Solomon's temple wouldn't have been destroyed by the Romans and Edomites in 70 AD if it ended with Jesus. Jesus clearly prophesied the fate of his chosen people in Jerusalem in Luke 21:24 before his death and resurrection. So I'm going to go there. The first, these couple images. This is going into Egypt on ships and sold as bondmen and bondwomen. And this is scattered to the four corners. These ships were going both ways. These ships were going over here. These ships were even taking slaves back across the ocean. That was scattering. This is slavery on ships. This is going into Egypt again on ships. This is what it looks like. Sold as bondmen, bondwomen to your enemies. So this is the enemies, and this is the children of God. These are the enemies. These are the children of God. And brought and sold on ships, crammed in there like sardines, like any ship's goods. They just throw it on there. They stuff whatever can fit in the ship. Just back then, that was you. However slaves we can get in there, it's not for their comfort. It's for us to have heads to sell.
It's the same thing we say about the hood.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to the
squeeze it there.
Yep, that's what they do. And if we can squeeze in that ghetto, get them in there.
Go back to that image with the slave and the slave master. And ask our audience, when did this fellow became our friend?
Mm-hmm.
When did he
That's
stop?
a good question. When did he stop? When he gave back your stuff? Oh, that ain't happened. When? When he gave reparations. You can't even get that.
They'll be on that 40 acres of the view.
So this is the prophecy stated about Israel. This is the prophecy stating that Israel would go into captivity after Christ's death, and also in the latter times, Israel would be in Egypt again. That would be in the latter times. Prophecy stated that. Revelation 11:8 said, and their dead bodies, speaking of the Israelites, would be lying in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. What's prevalent in Sodom of ancient time? Homosexuality. What's prevalent here in America today? Homosexuality. Spiritual Sodom. What was the Israelites' role in Egypt? Slaves. What's the role of blacks in America today? Slaves. Spiritual Egypt. You're sold into Egypt again, and sold as bondmen and bondwomen. This was prophesied after Christ. Last book of the Bible, Israelites in the latter times were lying in the streets of the great city, spiritually called Simon, Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And he's crucified every day when they go against the word, because the Lord is the word of God. And what if they did here in America? They made you believe that the word, the law, is null and void. And they'll tear you down if they can for following.
And gave you an image of the beast.
And gave an image of the beast and said, that's Christ. Many ways he's been crucified here. Also, how has he been crucified here? Christ himself said that if you visited mine in prison, or if you gave him a drink, that you visited me in prison, or you gave me a drink of water. So if you did them harm, you did me harm. So has the blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans been crucified here in America? And if they're his people, then that means he's been crucified here in America. That came out of Christ's mouth himself. Whatever you've done to one of my little ones, you've done to me. Many scriptures describe. Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah. And also, Ronald Dalton mentioned Luke 21:24. I didn't include that, but you can read 21:24 of the book of Luke, and it's Christ saying that all these things will happen to the Israelites in the future after he died. He said that Jerusalem will be trodden down until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And that's what these curses are about. So also, this part I was going to add, I'll do a separate class for that. But also to help prove who the true Israelites are, Jews of the Bible are, that they're black people, you can go in the scriptures. For lack of time, like I said, I'll do that in a separate lesson, but you go in the scriptures and you see that Christ, the angels, God, Israelites described as melanated beings. And also you got the imagery, which we already went through. But, there's more. Like I said, I'll go for this. I'll do this separate because it's 4:30. So let me close this window and we'll close out. All right, kind. So I'm going to end by giving all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh by Hashem Mashiach Yahweh Shai. This has been our Sabbath class, part 4 of our breaking down and proving that the so-called blacks or African Americans are the true Israelites / Jews according to the Bible. That's your true nationality, your true heritage, and this Bible, the laws of God, were given to your ancestors and given to you today. And to come out of the conditions we've been in as a people, we have to come back to the Most High God. So I pray that this class so far has been edifying, and that anybody watching this has been awakened to the truth of who they truly are. And lastly, I'm going to just say Shabbat Shalom again and Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.